pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stacy, could you please take roll call?
Acting Mayor Steve Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Hutchison,
Here.
Councilmember O'Regan,
Here.
Councilmember Carlson,
Here.
and Mayor Al Yoder is absent.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, A through G.
I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
Any discussion on anything? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we have the agenda requests for the community art class, page 15 and 16. Tracy, can you explain a little of that?
Yeah, so it's, we received a request from a sixth grader at the middle school. They have a community art class. They're looking to make a wooden sign for the school. It's Go Cardinals. It has all the activities that the school offers, sort of like their emblems or whatever you want to call it. Around there, they're looking to put it, I believe, on the Welcome to Motley sign or the wooden Motley sign, both on Highway 10 coming into Motley and 210 from the other side. So they're looking for you guys to approve them to move forward with it. I asked Bruce briefly if he thought it was something that would be possible, and he said, yep, I don't have any other details other than this. So it's sort of whether you guys are in support of it or not, and we can sort of hash out the details later, I think.
Do you know, oh, go ahead, Bruce. As long as they stay more, or 40 feet or more off the fog line and around this sign, there's no problem with it. You just can't be any closer than that.
Okay. Do you know if it's red or black, no coups?
I don't actually know.
That looks nice. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
I just have a question on like what the size would be, but I know at this point we don't know that, but.
Yeah, and I can get details. I can get details if you want. We could bring it back to another meeting. I don't know how soon they're looking to get this done. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we're in favor of moving ahead then, as far as getting some information.
Okay. I will write a letter back to Kiera because she wrote us a letter, and we'll go from there.
And then the next, planning and zoning, Pat, anything?
Planning and zoning doesn't have anything actionable going forward.
Okay. Anything from the building department at all? No?
Nope.
And up next is the fire department. A few things that are happening here. Brad Olson, you wanna?
The September fire report is 19 medicals, 2 good attempts, 1 motor vehicle accident, 1 fire for a total of 23 for the month.
And I can probably present it. So there was a member of the fire department who resigned in July. He dropped off his gear and basically said he wasn't making up his hours, he was done. We do not have a letter of resignation from him like we normally get from employees, but we can't force somebody to get his letter or give us a letter. So I would just ask that, assuming Brad approves it as the chief, you guys vote to approve and accept the resignation.
And what month was that when you did that?
July.
July, okay. So enough time has passed where you're definite that he's not coming back?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the fire chief also,
I would first ask for a motion to accept the resignation.
okay, I was gonna do them together, but,
Yeah,
I
I
would-
suppose.
Oh,
no, looking for a motion to approve the resignation of the firefighter.
I would make that motion.
A second,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Fire chief, resignation.
You have the letter there on page 18. Kyle is not stepping down from the fire department, but he is stepping down from the chief position. And the department had approved to move forward with that, and they've also voted on new officers. So I would just, again, ask that you accept the resignation.
I'm looking for a motion to accept the resignation of Mr. Frisk.
I would make that motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
any further discussion?
I think that we should maybe just note for both of them how much we appreciate their support and that, how valued our firefighters are.
I agree. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And then we have the approval of the new officers for 28. Brad Olson, chief, and Jim Allman, first assistant chief. And Brad, congratulations. And then I guess I'm looking for a motion for approval of the chief and the first assistant chief.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second that.
any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And then we have a letter of support for the Department of Public Safety grant for turnout gear. Page 19. And Lacey, can you explain the dollar?
Yeah, Brad can probably explain it.
This is a letter that gives your approval for us to apply for the grant. It is actually a washer and dryer to wash our fire gear, our turnout gear. We have all the hookups needed in the building currently. This would just be for the washer and the dryer. I don't have any solid numbers yet. I'm waiting on quotes. Ballpark figures, it's gonna be about $18,000, but we would get 90% of that back.
Okay,
Yeah, so the grant covers up to $18,000 with a 10% match from the city, and most grants that we get are a 50-50 match, so getting a grant at a 90-10 match is great. And I was looking into it just a little bit. What they currently have is like a residential washer and dryer, which really doesn't do a whole lot for turnout gear. So they have new equipment now that actually removes some of the carcinogens and stuff, and hopefully will be a little healthier for our firefighters. So yeah, this is just a letter supporting the application, not saying that you'll, and with the intent of purchasing the equipment if we get the grant. So, that's all.
Sounds like a good idea.
yeah, I'm looking for a motion that we will support this applying for the grant.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I would second that.
any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we will actually apply for that.
Yep,
Pretty
we are
soon.
getting, the grant deadline is next Tuesday, I think, the 16th. So yeah, I'm working with the department on getting everything ready and applying for that. So, but they found the grant, so.
Police department, Page 20 and 23.
For the month of September, we had a total of 121 calls. We're at just over 1,000 calls to date for this year, at the end of September. Was able to put in 34 hours at the school as a school resource liaison. And as you can see, the number of calls by each officer, and Officer Luberts was only here for 1 day during the month of September, so the majority of it fell back on me for the month. Anybody have any questions regarding the calls? Okay. The next thing I wanted to discuss with the council was the possibility of bringing the squad car home overnight at certain times or for certain instances. This isn't a take-home squad by any means. I'm not planning on using it on a daily basis to take it back and forth to home. It's just to try to help benefit timeframes. There's a lot of times where I have to go to Little Falls for different scenarios, whether it be court, to download video, certain meetings at the sheriff's office or with public health, other agencies. And a lot of times those meetings or court dates fall at a certain period of time of day where it would be more beneficial for me to just, being as I live in Little Falls, to take the squad home at the end of the day, at the end of that shift. For instance, a lot of my court dates or court times are generally around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And if I'm supposed to be getting done at around 4 o'clock, by the time I get out of court it's 4 or after. It's rather than having to drive all the way back up to Motley to swap out and get my personal vehicle and drive back home, I was hoping I'd be able to just have your permission to keep it at my residence and then start from there the next morning again. Same with meetings, sometimes there's early morning meetings with the sheriff at 7 a.m. and rather than having to be up here by 6 o'clock to get the squad and then drive back all the way down to Little Falls, I could have it down the night prior. So those are some of the few instances of where it would be beneficial. Like I said, it typically only happens a handful of times or so each month, but those few times it kind of would be a beneficial factor for me to not have to run back and forth between Little Falls and Motley 3 times in a day.
I think I'll be looking for a motion to approve that. I was hesitant at first, but it totally makes sense. I think with the liaison approval ahead of time, when everything was explained to me anyhow, it totally makes sense. So I'm looking for a motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
I will second it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to throw some feedback in there. I get where you're going. I think we may get a little resistance from the public. So I really like Steve's idea. Prior to you doing that, can you tell your liaison when it's gonna happen? So that way if we get residents who are concerned or, you know, that way your liaison knows what's going on and we can explain the or your liaison can explain the situation.
Sure.
Yeah. Other than that, I do agree that it's probably a better use of your time in the squad as well. Just so we have our bases covered and,
Yep.
you know, public has questions.
And if something was going on like 10 o'clock in the morning, you know, that would be a different thing because Jason would come and finish his tour in our town. But at the end of the day, it does, when it's explained to me coming back and forth, it doesn't make sense financially either.
Because you do live south, correct?
Correct. Yep. Excuse me. Yes, I live in Little Falls, so
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff takes place
So
in
you're
Little
right
Falls,
there.
so it's,
Yeah,
and I'm
absolutely.
not more than 2 blocks off of the highway actually, so
Okay.
I'm not really traveling 5 miles south of Little Falls or anything like that. I'm actually 2 blocks out of the way is all.
Okay.
From the personnel standpoint, it makes way more sense rather than paying him for the time to drive back up here.
Yeah.
And then
Excess
wasting your
wages.
employees' time of,
Yep.
you know, more time away from home. So if it works out,
Yeah, him and I discussed it earlier this week, and initially I was hesitant as you were, and once we discussed it and he explained the reasoning behind it, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Yes, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you. Next on my agenda was the possible purchase of a less lethal shotgun. This is a weapon that's designed to, what you probably more commonly know as shooting a beanbag round. As you know, in the last few years, police encounters with deadly force scenarios have increased, and the publicity of them has also increased, and how the general public feels about them. This is another tool that is useful for officers to use to try to stay away from having to use lethal force. It's designed to be used in partnership with lethal force. So typically we have more than one officer on scene. One would be able to use lethal force with their handgun, rifle, shotgun, and a second officer would be able to use a less lethal shotgun with the beanbag rounds. That way we can hopefully subdue an armed subject without having to actually shoot them with lethal rounds. Morrison County Sheriff's Office has trained all their deputies in this. I've also participated in the training, and as far as I know, all the deputies have been issued these shotguns as well. So they're all carrying the shotgun as well. The new shotgun costs around $800 to $1,000 fully set up for this use. And I was able to find one through a gun dealer at a reduced price. It's a used shotgun, but it'll work perfectly for this event. So with a little modifications, it would be all set up at about $274, give or take. It's depending on how much the county charges for the rounds, they'll be buying the beanbag rounds for me.
Now, I know for tasers, the officers need to be tased.
Yep. We don't actually shoot each other with these. We did some training with them last week again, and it's funny because the officer before me, he shot at the rubber mat about 50 feet away, and the beanbag round flew back and hit one of the other officers in the legs, and he was jumping around going, wow, that really hurts, and that was after it already bounced off another target. So
Yeah, I know with the news that we have so many shootings, won't go into how you believe on that, but the liability issue is tremendous.
and this will
And the used
hopefully
one makes sense.
this will hopefully help reduce that necessity to have to injure or kill somebody on scene, that we might be able to take them into custody with less lethal force. And then we'd have a separate policy that's written up, that was included as well. That,
And the gun and the modifications were, what, 300 and some bucks?
274 approximately.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the purchase of a shotgun and modifications for, makes sense to me.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
What was the orange spray paint for?
Nope, that's a good question. The orange spray paint is for the stock and forearm on the shotgun. So what we do is, some brands you can actually buy an orange stock and forearm for them. The brand of this shotgun I'm not able to, so, and the sheriff's office has fallen into that category too on some, so we just repaint them with orange. So then they're readily identifiable, so when we're out in the field working with other officers and we see that they're holding up the orange one, we know that that's the less lethal weapon and not a real weapon.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the administrative citations. A couple of months ago, you guys gave us the go-ahead to start working on getting those developed and activated. Lacey and I have worked at it quite a bit, and we've gotten everything run through the district judge. They signed off on it. It's gone through the state court administration, so we've gotten our access numbers, and the all the citable offenses are currently being entered into our ticket writer program by Doug Rexted down at the sheriff's office, who is in control of that program. Before we can actually do a resolution and have it fully in effect, we're gonna need to make sure that we have a neutral third party hired on by the city in order to handle any disputes that people that receive these citations may have. So if I issue a administrative citation to somebody and they want to dispute it, they can bring it to City Hall, and then we have to have a neutral third party that here's their side of the story, here's my side, and then makes a decision similar to like a judge does.
And just to clarify, because I didn't write this on there, this is administrative traffic citations. We can already write administrative citations for a few other things like ordinance violations, but this is for traffic citations that under Minnesota law, he's able to write administrative citations for instead. I think we had also brought this up the first time. We had said the neutral third party. So the state doesn't define what a neutral third party is, of course. The League of Minnesota Cities memo on it says that the legislative intent is that this hearing officer be someone other than city staff or the city council. So it's somebody who doesn't have a direct relationship or interest in this fine being paid or not. I contacted Morrison County because the sheriff's department there also writes administrative tickets. They have their city or the county administrator is the person who oversees that. Who else did we have? Somebody was I want to say Perham, but that could be wrong. One city's using their driver's ed instructor. I think they pay him to do it. And then the other one, I think the mayor appoints some citizen to do it. So, I don't know. But it has to be provided on the forms that the county is getting ready. So at some point we have to make a decision before he can start writing these tickets.
Does anybody have anything in mind, or anybody in mind?
That was the part we were hoping that you guys could help us with.
So how would this work if we had, say we pay one person 8 hours for one day, like just one day a month? Is that adequate, or do we?
Oh, I think, I had one city said that they've only had like 3 ever contested. So this isn't, it's only if somebody contests it. If they say, no, I don't want to pay this, I don't deserve this at all, let me contest it. I think it'll be pretty infrequent.
We could also pay a person on a on-call per needed basis, so much per citation. So if we want to pay them $10 or $20 for each one that they take care of for us, they can set one day a month aside, that the first Monday of the month, they take care of these hearings. They get paid $10 or whatever per citation to take care of the hearing. and leave it at that, that's an option as well.
When do we need to know by tonight?
No, I don't.
Doug is hoping to have everything entered into the system before the next council meeting. We're hoping at the next council meeting, we can have a resolution signed to put these into force in effect. So we should have somebody named by at that next council meeting.
Do they have to live in city limits, or there's no real stipulations, you just gotta have somebody?
We have to have somebody
Neutral.
and, yeah. Let me see. A common understanding of neutral would require that the hearing officer be impartial to both the interests of the city and the recipient of the citation. In addition, a common understanding of third party would require that the hearing officer not be one of the principal participants in the controversy, the city or the citation recipient. I don't know why you would have that. They should most likely not be the city council as a whole, an individual council member, or a higher level city officer such as the city administrator or clerk. The neutral third party should be someone hired by the city specifically to handle these situations. You may set up a schedule such as 1 day per month, and the city may charge a fee for the appeal. So we could charge the $10
Yep,
if they want to appeal it, and that $10 could go to whoever hears it, or whatever, if we want to do, I don't know.
So did you
really
say
think
Little
that
Falls
works.
was using their administrator?
The county,
Oh, the county
the city of Little
administrator.
Falls doesn't write administrative tickets, but the county does,
Okay.
or administrative citations.
Do you think that person would have interest to do ours as well?
No,
Oh.
there's, yeah, I
Okay.
would say absolutely not, would be my guess.
I could think of a few, but I'd have to ask them, to make
Right.
sure that that's something that they have.
Because they really should be familiar with our ordinances and laws and.
Yeah, relatively. I think I mean, they're simple, they're not ordinance violations, it's traffic violations.
So
One
it-
was that I was thinking of would be Larry Converse. That's the first one that comes to my mind.
Now, if he's a former employee of the city, does that matter?
No, I would say that would be fine.
I can get a hold of him and ask him.
okay.
And being the police chief from back, I mean, he's got a good knowledge of,
Or, you know, who else Jason had mentioned too is, why can't I think of his name?
Troy
Yes,
Davis.
Troy Davis, who also
Oh,
writes
yeah.
he acts as the fire warden. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that would be an option too.
I don't know, but, yeah.
So they'll have a lot more for the next council meeting then?
Yes. Yep. Hopefully we'll have it all in place that we can decide on a person or have agreements with a person to be a neutral third party and have everything entered into the system that we can have you guys sign a resolution that put it into motion, and after that we can issue those citations.
So are you looking for us to have, obviously, names and have spoken to these people before the next meeting as possible?
As a
candidates?
possibility, yeah.
Okay.
I guess, yeah, my only thought was Troy,
I think
And
yeah.
so Larry's a good possibility.
Well, the other one I was thinking of would be Jeff Halverson. He's retired from the DNR now, and I mean, with the DNR, he's got a good working knowledge of
Yeah.
laws, and so he may be another one that would be a good.
Are you willing to ask?
I can either call him, or I've got all their contact information. If you
And I
want me to
can
give
too.
that to you,
Well,
I
and
can
you know,
give him a
now that
call.
we're talking about this too, I wonder if we can just call it a hearing officer or something, and then we could appoint they could appoint the actual person at a later date. Because honestly, how soon is somebody gonna contest one of these?
True.
So the more and more talking about it, I bet we could probably just write on the ticket, because we wouldn't want to write somebody's name.
Right. Cause it could change.
Exactly. So I bet if we called it a hearing officer and then could work on appointing a hearing officer, that could work, right? Okay. Yeah.
So food for thought.
Okay, do you still want Jace to check with his?
Yeah, I can
I'll
talk
get
with you.
Jace after this.
Those are really good people.
I know, I have good ideas once in a
Yeah, you
great
do.
while. I said once in a great while.
Alright, and on the last thing on my agenda is approval for a TZD conference. TZD stands for Towards Zero Deaths. This is where the extra shifts that I work as throughout the year, doing extra patrol comes from. You see it advertised all the time on TV that officers are out doing extra patrol, make sure you buckle up, click it or ticket, the DUIs, things like that. They're having a conference this month on the 23rd and 24th down in Mankato. I was able to attend the conference last year and it was a really good learning experience for me. I was hoping to be able to go again this year. The state reimburses us up to $300 for the hotel rooms, plus they pay for the registration fee for the class. So really, there's very little, if any, expense at all for me to go. The only expense really would be mileage, and it would be a possibility for me to just drive the work vehicle, the squad down there, because it wouldn't be needed by anybody else during that period of time. So we could avoid that cost out of the budget as well.
I will make a motion for you to go.
I'll second it.
Second, yeah. Any discussion? I guess, how far is Mankato from here?
I suppose it's probably almost 2.5 hours.
It's roughly 150 miles from Little Falls, so 180 from here.
And on your motion, would that include taking our squad car down there?
Yeah, sure. I'll include the motion with the use of the police
Any
vehicle.
further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Alright,
Aye.
Opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you.
Any other comments or concerns?
Yeah, I have something for you. I believe we missed, part B, the acceptance of this policy. We have to approve that, don't we, for the less